Allah, don't let me stray. Please guide my way onto the path of my deen. Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah, I'm calling your name.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk on your favorite channel, Huda TV. I'm your host, Arkham Rashid. A very important component for us to be good Muslims is having an Islamic environment, whether at home or outside, surrounding ourselves with good people and raising our children with strong Islamic values. On tonight's episode, we want to discuss the importance of an Islamic environment and in what ways can we create an Islamic environment for ourselves, our families, and our friends. So I'm going to start off as usual by letting my guests introduce themselves, and then we'll begin our conversation, inshallah. So if I can start with my right brother, if I can get your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Idris Tawfiq. I came to Egypt from the UK. I'm here with my family, my wife and children, and I'm just here studying at Azhar.
Alright, and this is obviously not your first time being on the show. We've had the honor to host you a couple of times.
I've had the honor of being here. I'm not sure if it's an honor for you, but...
Of course it is. It's always an honor for us. Go ahead, brother. If you can give us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself. Go ahead.
My name is Ahmed Anis Kashiri. People usually call me Honest. I'm from the US, specifically Los Angeles, California, and I'm here studying in Azhar as well.
Alright, and obviously this is not his first time either. He's been on with us. By now I can introduce you guys, but the thing is that it's so many guests usually for Let's Talk that I have each one of you guys introduce yourselves, just so the audience gets to know you a bit, people who are watching for the first time, people who haven't watched before, just so they get to know you. But obviously we know each other now really good. Alright, if I can go to this side, brother, if I can get your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Sharif Hamdi. I work as a teacher of English language. I work for a school, and I'm happy about that.
Alright, and
yes.
You're from Egypt, correct?
Yes, I'm from Cairo, yes.
Alright, Sharif, it's an honor to have you on our show here today to discuss this topic with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brother, if I can get your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ahmed, and I'm from Egypt. I'm an English teacher too. And I'm happy because we've been an English teacher too. I'm his colleague.
Is that why you chose to sit next to him?
Yes. Yeah, because we are from Egypt, and in Egypt we get familiar with each other when we are close to each other.
I never knew he's a teacher. That's the first time.
Right, yes. And
see, that's why we have them introduce themselves.
Yes. All right, and it's not my first time here, and it's a
I know.
pleasure.
I had you here before.
Yes, it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Alright, and vice versa, it's a pleasure to have you on the show once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Alright, so I want to start off by asking each and every one of you guys, what does an Islamic environment mean to you?
Okay, so me personally, I believe that an Islamic environment is an environment in which we are happy and encouraged to display our Islam, where we don't feel like displaying our Islam is a hindrance on people, where we don't feel as if displaying Islam is going to bring about any kind of harm or any kind of degradation or negative feelings and reactions from our outside community. And an Islamic environment is important because it helps us to do good. It helps us to do good deeds.
It makes it easier.
It makes it easier to do good deeds because you actually feel comfortable whilst you're doing it. Sometimes. I was living as in a Muslim minority country in the UK where most of the people are not Muslims.
But I thought there were some sort of no-go zones in...
that's nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. There's no no-go zones. But sometimes for some Muslims it's very difficult for them to display their Islam because they're just seen as being very strange. Even though there's no laws banning hijab or banning beards or though, sometimes people feel a bit... if I do it,
people are going to judge me.
They're going to judge me, react in the wrong way. You've got all of these issues going on around the world today. Maybe they're going to assume that I'm
part of
that
certain group.
Yeah, so an Islamic environment is imperative in us, actually being comfortable to be Muslims. That's like one of the key points I believe that we should take home from being in a Muslim environment.
All right, Honest, if I can get your thoughts on what does an Islamic environment mean to you?
Yeah, I second that on having that feeling of comfort, in being a Muslim, and doing your daily activities without any
hindrance
or anything from other people, for example. And to me personally, I think an Islamic environment, for example, were it to be in the household or in the masjid or in your college or school, for example, if you'd have like Muslim groups or whatnot, that there shows that it's promoting that awareness of that Islamic identity, So, like, if we didn't have those Islamic environments, it would have been as though we're just sharing it would be as though, like, Islam, for us, is as though it would be a subculture of people, where it's not a transcending thing, where we show, and it's just a secondary part of us, where we're not showing the primary,
aspect
of it, how it surpasses like the whole identity of ourselves, as being Muslims. So it's more of like a culture nurturing environment of sorts. Yeah.
Okay. All right. If I can take the question over to this side, brother, what does an Islamic environment mean to you? When you think of an Islamic environment, what does that mean?
Concerning that, something is coming to my attention. Islamic environment cannot be achieved unless we apply what is mentioned in the Holy Quran and in the Sunnah of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And if we do that, you will get intact Islamic environment. Because if you do this, you will have the happiness in this world and the happiness in the world to come. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, تركت فيكم ما إن تمسكتم به لن تضلوا بعدي أبدا كتاب الله وسنتي. I have left amongst you that which if you adhere to it, you will never go astray. The book from Allah, the Holy Quran, and my Sunnah, which means the Prophet's sayings, statements, the Prophet's actions, all of this. So I believe that the concept of Islamic environment is achieved and fulfilled when all of the Muslims adhere to or are committed to the teachings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, that mentioned in the Sunnah and also the orders in the Holy Quran.
All right, brother, what's your thoughts on?
Yeah, well, actually, I'd like to say that man is not born alone. Man is sociable, and being sociable, you need to communicate with others. You teach them, and you learn something from them. So, speaking about Islam, for example, doing the ibadat or the rituals of religion, you can do it alone, but you won't feel this spirituality if you don't do it with others. For example, here in our countries, being fast in Ramadan, it's something sociable that you encourage each other. We encourage each other to go to the masjid to recite Quran and to pray together, to pray Taraweeh, and to speak after we have breakfast. To speak about the day and the suffrage of fasting, and the memories of the day. So yes, it's about encouragement, as my brother said, that you and your friend together. If you just feel lazy that you don't have the desire to pray or to do something, so you find your brother, you're side by side with each other. You encourage each other to go forward to do what's right, what is religious. And speaking about the distractions of life, that if you live in a country of a minority, is the Muslim minority, it's about the woman and these scenes actually that they make you, they play on your instinct basically. So being in Islamic
I mean,
environment
I
makes you away from these distractions, and you keep you on the straight path. That's the point.
That's correct as far as Islamic environment. But I mean, a Muslim majority country doesn't necessitate an Islamic environment.
Yeah, that's true. And it's a problem actually, yes. So the perfect or the ideal Islamic environment is not existed. Even in our countries, in Muslim countries.
All right, interesting. I just want to take a quick minute to remind the viewers that they can join our conversation anytime during this episode by simply calling the number on their screen. And, you know, we'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments, your questions. You know, we'd love for you to join and take part in our conversation here. So now I want to move on to something. I want to move on to, you know, why do you think an Islamic environment is essential for Muslims? If I was a Muslim, why do I need an Islamic environment to be a Muslim? Why can't I just be an ascetic Muslim, you know?
Yeah, and an Islamic environment is crucial because, as we mentioned before, it pushes you to worship Allah to the best of our abilities. The best way to look at it is what happens when we come out of that Muslim environment.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you hear, you know, amazing isn't the word, but awful stories when students come from Muslim countries to, let's just say, London universities, and like all of the bad things are open to them. Drinking alcohol is no problem. You know, getting with opposite gender, having relations outside of marriage, no problem. Drugs, no problem. Everything's open. So you take them out of that environment and put them in our environment, and it's very hard for them to actually practice their Islam. Even to the point where it becomes easier not to practice Islam. You know? So being in a Muslim environment is crucial because, you know, our hearts are affected by what we see. You know, so if we're seeing a lot of bad things in the society and to the point where it's promoted, then it's going to be easy for us to fall into those kind of actions, you know. So if we don't surround ourselves with a Muslim environment, we'll find, subhanAllah, that our deen, our practice, become very, very shaky, you know. And, you know, you have the story, you know, the man that killed the 99 men.
Before you tell the story, we just have a call from Brother Hussam from Egypt. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi. Brother Arkham, how are you doing?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you? And I want to thank you for, you know, calling in and joining our conversation here.
You are very welcome. Brother, actually your topic is Islamic environment, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a problem and I'd like to listen from you. How can I deal with it? I have a kid. He is 1 year old, and I want him to grow up in a pure Islamic environment. But the problem is when he goes to my parents' home, my younger brother, he used to listen to music, and actually my kid listen to the music due to my brother. And if I didn't send him to my parents' home, maybe they will be very sad, and I don't want them to be sad. And actually, I don't know what should I do. Please, I'll be very grateful to listen from you and to tell me what do you think.
All right. Once again, I want to firstly thank you for calling in and joining our conversation, and also remind the other viewers that they should also, we want to encourage them that they should also call and, you know, comment and ask questions and, you know, share their thoughts. As far as your question goes, I would say, I'm going to give a theoretical answer, then we'll go to Brother Ilyas, who has children, so he can give a more realistic answer and more pragmatic answer. I would say, I would recommend that you go talk to your brother first, in a nice way, and ask him or tell him the issue you have with him listening to music. You don't want, first you should convince him that he shouldn't be doing these acts. If that doesn't work, then you should at least tell him to abstain from these acts while your son is at your parents' house. If that doesn't work, then you need to take it a step further, maybe speak to your parents to resolve this issue. So now I'm going to pass the same question on to Brother Ilyas and get his thoughts on it. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, it's a crucial question, you know, because alhamdulillah, I have children. My family are not Muslims. I became Muslim maybe 9 years ago now. So I have the exact same problem. You know, you go to your family's house and, you know, there's all sorts going on. But like you said, the key point is to have conversations. You know, it's very important. Sometimes when we start practicing Islam, we shy away from, where Islam is the complete opposite. It's supposed to bring family together. Silatul Rahim, like the ties of kinship are so important to the point where if we break our family ties, then that's such a major sin. It's so serious, you know. So one of the problems I had when I first became Muslim, that I had done the exact opposite. It's like, no, this is just haram, and I'm not, you know. And we become like that. So the trick I found was having a conversation before the event arises. So we had my family would celebrate Christmas, etc. And so when I was living at my parents' house, all of the issues come, you know, the music and the celebration of, you know, shirk essentially, and what have you. So the point I was really emphasised was when I spoke to my family beforehand, say, look, I'm not gonna, you know, be exchanging gifts, or, you know, I'm not gonna be, you know, celebrating.
They probably thought you were trying to be cheap or something.
But I mean, you know, but if you explain it beforehand, and inshallah they understand it. It's like similarly when my grandmother passed away, and they asked me if I'm going to go to the church, and I said I can go to the church, but when there's actually worship of Jesus, etc., taking place, then I want to just go outside and wait until it's done and then re-enter again. So, and alhamdulillah, they all understood. But it's just having the initial conversation first.
That communication.
The communication has to be there. Don't wait until you get to your mum's house to say, look, Mum, can you tell brother to stop playing the music? Have the conversation beforehand. So, inshallah, it will play on their mind. And, like...
Actually, a very good piece of advice.
Yeah, I mean, the like you said, I mean, talking to the brother, maybe if you say, look, I don't want my children to be raised around this environment, etc., it might be dawah to him. Yeah. You know, instead of just saying, akhi, you know, music's haram, or whatever. But if you say, look, I want my children to be hearing the Quran or good anashid, etc., growing up so they learn, inshallah, it might be good dawah for him. So I think the main thing is just having the lines of communication clear and open, you know, and then inshallah that's a way of bringing people, inshallah, to practicing Islam in an Islamic environment, inshallah.
All right. Now, before that phone call, before I interrupted you, you were actually telling us a story. Do you remember what that was? Or?
Yeah. Do you know the hadith about the man who killed, 99 men, and he wanted to repent to Allah, and I think inshallah everyone knows it. Inshallah.
So we skip the story.
Skip the story because it's a bit lengthy. But the whole point is that the advice was given to him to leave his environment, to go to a different environment, an environment where he won't be maybe called back to those actions that he was doing before. So, if we look at us again, because I was discussing what happens when, we come out of that Islamic environment or that Muslim environment. So it's important that we take real stock of our environment, because this thing, we're products of our environment. It's so true. When you come out of your environment, you realize who you are. So really having that Islamic environment is absolutely imperative to our Islam, and Islam really took off when they left Makkah and had their own environment in Medina.
Yeah. So do you think it's nearly impossible to create an Islamic environment in a Muslim minority country, or do you think that's possible? You can create an environment?
Some facets are possible. I mean, the main thing is that you have it in your home.
Yeah.
This is key. You can't come outside and go inside your home and
not having an Islamic environment.
Not having an Islamic. So it starts at home. Let's say charity starts at home. Or the Islamic environment, it starts at home, because that really, it builds the character. And having close family ties is an Islamic concept again, so that builds the character in the children that we are, inshallah, trying to raise. Because unfortunately in London anyway, it's like the parents are so busy working, mum's working, dad's working, the children just left to be raised on the street. And so they're going to adopt
the street culture.
The street and culture, and the street characteristics which we don't want which we don't want for our children, So, having the environment in the home is crucial. But then when we come out of the home, we need to be, inshallah, mixing with other Muslims that are like-minded.
Yeah.
And so we can build that Islamic environment. This is why the masajid in Muslim minority countries, in my opinion, are better than masajid in Muslim countries.
Because it's like a community. It's
the center of the community. Over here, you have so many, just pray and go.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Muslim minority countries, it's the center. You want a plumber, you don't want to hire whoever, but there's a good Muslim.
And it's so true, because when you go to the masjid in back home, like in the U.S., you know everybody there, or a lot of the people there. Yeah. Over here, when I go to the masjid, I just pray and leave. I don't know anybody there.
Don't know anyone. You don't have no relationship with the masajid. You know the hadith of the 7 who are under the shade of Allah Azza wa Jal. One of them is the person whose heart is connected to the masjid. So one thing I find is that in London, I had that. It was connected. It had its problems. There's not as many, so you're wondering sometimes, where am I going to have a place to pray? But when you actually are involved in a masjid, community projects, football or soccer, in your case, it really pushes us to go to the masjid, and make friends, and try to create a Muslim environment where we are. So, really, the home and the masajid are 2 really key points that we need to look into.
All right. Anas, why do you think having an Islamic environment is essential? Previously, you mentioned things like Islamic get-together groups, MSAs. Why do you think these things are essentials?
Because basically, everything else outside of that Islamic environment is basically like anti towards your development or your behavior, to your morals and code of conduct, and basically the only way to combat that is through that Islamic environment where you get together, have that brotherhood, sisterhood, and you're all as what the brother said, common-minded, like-minded brother and sister that
same goals in mind.
Yeah, same goals in mind. Yeah, and that's the aspiration in which you want to achieve, and that ideal-minded where everyone's all together and not being judged by as towards going outside that community or whatnot.
Okay, I guess that judging thing is a very important point, because when you're hanging out with people that don't share the same beliefs or don't have the same goals in mind, then when you do something, you feel like, oh, my friends are going to judge me. You know what? I won't pray right now. I'll just make it up later or something. But if you're hanging out with, religious people or just good-charactered Muslims, when it's time to pray, they're the ones actually saying, "Hey, come on, you didn't pray yet. Let's go. What's going on?" Okay. Why do you guys think having an Islamic environment is essential?
I believe it's essential because the Islamic environment completely copes with the innate, pure human nature, which Allah created in the cells of humans. So everything or every action under the cover of this Islamic environment is making all the Muslims happy, and making them also living in a better place, because in the absence of this thing, you will feel like you are living in a jungle. So it's very important for the happiness of Muslims to have to live under the cover of Islamic environment. Yes.
All right, brother. Why do you think an Islamic environment is essential for Muslims to have?
All right. At the beginning, I would like to comment on your what you said, that you pray and go home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's out of feeling unfamiliar, uncomfortable with the environment, with the surroundings.
Yeah.
So Allah Azza wa Jal, He sent the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to the whole mankind. So Islam is a universal religion.
Yeah.
And it's being universal makes you work on this point to spread Islam, because you are feeling strange, you are feeling unfamiliar if you just live in some country. So spreading Islam, it helps you to get yourself away from being uncomfortable. For example, you live in some country of minority Muslim,
Mm-hmm.
Muslim minority, you live there, you feel that you're alone because you don't have Muslims around. So it makes you work on the dawah, that you call for Islam. You help others, or you try to help others and help yourself to make your own family. That you create your own big family, big Muslim family everywhere. That wherever you travel, you feel familiar. You feel that you are not away from home. You're not away from your religion. So the meaning of Muslim surroundings. It makes it a must for us to call for Islam everywhere, in order to help yourself to feel familiar wherever you travel. That's the
Those
point.
some very good points, especially with the travel there. Okay, so now before we continue our conversation any further, we're going to go for a short break, and after that, we're going to continue our conversation about Islamic environment. And I want to quickly remind you that after the break, you can also join us by calling the number on your screen, and share your thoughts, your comments, your questions. We will be glad to have you as part of our conversation. Anyways, stay tuned till we come back.
How perfect my Allah is, and I praise Him. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, Subhanallahi. How perfect you are, Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala.
It's welcome again from me, from your host Ismail Bullock, and from your host
Gabriel Romani. The parents have to encourage their kids to get married, and at the same time, support them.
What many people don't understand is that seeking knowledge in itself is ibadah. And Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he says, لَأَنْ أَطْلُبُ الْعِلْمَ سَاعَةً أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِنْ أَلْفِ رَكَعَةٍ. That I seek knowledge for an hour is better and more beloved than ألف ركعة, which means 1,000 rak'ah.
The real meaning of La ilaha illallah is not there's no God but God. La ma'bud bihaqqin illallah. That is, if you want to note it down, that is the real meaning of La ilaha illallah. There is none worthy of worship except Allah.
I remember as a Christian, when I was a Christian before, they have this whole issue of your cross. You have to wear your cross. This will protect you, and if it breaks, something wrong will happen to you. And the icons, and put an icon in your wallet.
Huda TV's social media sites are the best way to contact us from anywhere around the world. Stay connected with Huda TV's latest news and programs through Facebook, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Skype, and Instagram. It's fast and easy. Stay up to date with your favorite shows and scholars today. Huda TV, a light in every home.
Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Now. Before the break, we were speaking about how important an Islamic environment is and why it's essential for all Muslims to have. Now what I want to do is I want to get into another question that's very important, and that is how to create an Islamic environment. How can we create a surrounding that is based off of our religion? And for that, I want to go to this side first. Both of you guys are from a Muslim majority country, Egypt, alhamdulillah. And I want to ask you, how can you create an Islamic environment in a Muslim majority country, which is already Muslim, majority of the citizens? So go ahead.
Yes, we can do that through, spreading the Muslim rituals all over the society, or giving people good information about how to do that, and let them know how to spread this among the
general
society.
population.
Yes, starting with homes, schools, streets, being at work, all of that. And as a teacher of English, I can tell you that in my school, we try to do that with our students. Through, sometimes we give them lectures, short lectures about how to be a good Muslim, how to behave well with others, how to cooperate with your friends or your brothers to be good Muslims in the future. And sometimes we use, wall posts. So I see that from the inception of the matter, you can spread it through young people or young children. So it is very effective to do that.
Yeah. Yes. And obviously it starts with the younger generation. It's easier to enlighten a child about the truth rather than somebody that's already lived most of his life. It's very hard to change his ideas and ideology.
Yes, and something else very important, which is if you delegate your message to the young children in a nice way, in a way in which they love you, they will obey you at once, because kids, when kids love someone, they obey him and carry out what he says at the moment. So,
all right, brother, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I just second what my brother said, that charity begins at home. That we as the family, they should the parents should have the responsibility to teach their kids the value, the culture of Islam, and they give them the story of our ancestors and how Islam was strange, and the difficulties that people suffered from because of being away from the ideal Islamic surroundings, and they teach their kids to value this this thing that they live in Islamic surroundings. And then schools, it's very important at schools to spread the culture of Islam to and alhamdulillah that we have Al-Azhar here. It's not that very perfect, but at least somewhere you find some people. You just called my university not perfect, but go ahead. Well, yes, frankly speaking, and the friends together that we are friends. My name is Muhammad. Your name is Ahmed. Why don't we do something different? Something in Islam that makes us feel different and feel that we are true Muslims, instead of going to cafes, chatting.
Brother, I'm just going to have to cut you off for 1 second. Hold you. We have a phone call from Abu Abdullah from Egypt. Assalamu alaikum.
How are you, brother?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. Thank you for calling and joining our conversation.
Yeah. Well, would you allow me to add something to the episode?
Of course, sure.
Yeah. Well, I lived in America for about 2 years and 4 months. And there, I noticed that the Muslim community there is involved in inventing Islamic environment to protect their kids from the cultures which is there. And in our Muslim countries, is this already. So it's very a lot for us to have such an environment to live in. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Thank you very much.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you for your contribution to the show. We're pleased that you called in and joined our conversation, and I want to remind the other viewers once again that the number's on the screen. Pick up your phone, don't be shy, and give us a call. So go ahead, brother.
Yes, I was speaking about the family, schools, and it's very important to say that the media has its turn to
a very important role.
Yes, and because what we see on TV is important, especially in the Arabic family. And a lot of culture, is sucked out of TV. And the scenes on TV are not very good actually. So the media, they have a responsibility to spread the culture of Islam. And the parents too, they have to teach their daughters the culture of wearing hijab, because it's not a perfect hijab. Because I'm a young man. I'm speaking from the perspective of young people in Egypt. That it's really a suffrage, walking on the street and keeping your eyes away from everywhere. That the ideal hijab is not existed in Egypt, and And it's really, it's something very bad that you find a father walking on the street with his daughter and she's not wearing in a perfect, she's not dressed in perfect clothes. So, yes, for the women also.
Okay. Now, before I take the question to this side and ask them about Muslim minority countries,
Yes.
or countries where Muslims are the minority, and how to establish a good Islamic environment there. Okay, we got a phone call. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Brother Khalid from Egypt. Assalamu alaikum.
Please, I want to ask you about the Islamic environment in the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his time now. Because, of course, I hate Muslims and I love Islam now, because the relationship between neighbors are very bad. And in every dealing in our life now. So, and I want from you to advise me, what can I do now?
Brother, if you can repeat that question, I didn't hear it clearly.
What? Please, loud your voice. Yes, the Muslims now are very bad, because I am a Muslim and I live in a village. My neighbors is very bad. The dealing is now, because our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said in his hadith, ad-din al-mu'amala. The religion is the dealing. Now the neighbors are very bad. Everyone you deal with them now is very bad. The Muslims cheat when they are selling any goods in every place. So I hate Muslims and I love Islam. What can you advise me to do now? Please, I implore to you and I implore every Muslim in all over the world. I swear you to advise me, what can I do with Muslims now?
All right, brother, first of all, I want to thank you for calling in and joining our conversation here. So the brother asked a very important question, and you mentioned a very good point. He said, you know, he hates Muslims, but he loves Islam. And the reason being because, you know, people like his neighbor and other Muslims he's interacted with, you know, have cheated him or, you know, are rude to him or, you know, don't behave in an Islamic fashion or manner.
Yeah, I just find it quite tough to say that you hate Muslims. You should love your brother. Okay, he may not be on the straight path, but you shouldn't hate him. You just advise. And
well, I feel it's not, I don't think that's a Muslim issue or a non-Muslim issue. I feel like there's good people and bad people out of every religion.
That's the point, yes.
And for us as Muslims, we need to educate our brothers, our sisters, starting from a young age, you know, young children. We need to educate them in a proper Islamic manner. That's why Islam came, to take away that rudeness, to take away cheating, to take away, you know, these type of actions. And what we can do for somebody that's already grown up, like your neighbor, and he's being rude to you, you do the exact opposite thing. You be nice to him. We have another phone call. Assalamu alaikum. Mansoor from Nigeria. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Good afternoon, brothers.
Yes, good afternoon, and good evening, actually. It's evening here. I want to thank you for calling and joining our conversation here.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you, sir.
Go ahead, brother. What would you like to share with us?
I just want to commend the brother for, actually all of you, for this effort of enlightening Muslim brothers and sisters. Jazakallah khairan. May Allah reward you abundantly.
Wa iyaakum, and once again, I want to thank you for calling in and sharing your comment there with us about us. Thank you very much. So, as I was saying, you know, I don't feel that it's a Muslim issue that, you know, because they're Muslim, they're this way. It's just, most of the times, it's a part of a culture. And Islam came to take those, not your culture away, but those things that are wrong with your culture, it came to rectify them. And, you know, once we apply the correct Islam to our culture, then our culture becomes correct. You can have your culture with you. Nobody's saying Islam takes away your culture. That's not what it does. But it rectifies it. You know, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. I think, unfortunately, we look at Muslims and we expect Islam. This is the problem, you know. But there's a clear difference between the two. Remember, hearing of a brother who was reading a translation of the Quran.
Yeah.
I can't remember whose translation it was, if it escapes me. But the translator, he said, Alhamdulillah, I knew Islam before I met Muslims. Yeah, because of the same problems that the brother faced. But then the Prophet ﷺ said, Ad-deen al-nasiha. Like the brother mentioned, like, it is advice. Like, the deen is advice. So we really need to really not question people, but advise them in the best way. And sometimes when we're advising people, we approach them in a completely wrong way. Akhi, that's so haram, we can't do that. And so we need to realize that, you know, the whole point of giving advice is because you want the person to accept it. It's not just...
If you rub it in his face, he's
not rub it in his face. And if you say it in a way in which all you want to do is get your point across, he's never going to accept it. You know, so when we give an advice, we need to bear in mind who we give advice to, and what is the best way we can tackle that. You know, and I wouldn't necessarily say that. Okay, we shouldn't say we hate Muslims, because that's every single. I hate every.
That's a
single
generalization.
Muslim. It's a big generalization, because you know you will find some maybe that one Muslim that you do find that's very good, very honest. It just makes up for all of the bad ones that you meet. You realize, there is actually some hope. There is some hope. But also, we need to be that Muslim. You know, because sometimes when we say, I hate Muslims and all these kind of things, and we become like those same people. We start being harsh with people because they're harsh with me. I want to cheat them because they cheat me. So really, it's on us to be the good example, inshallah.
And that's the best form of da'wah also. That when somebody's being rude to you, you do the exact opposite. Our Prophet ﷺ taught us how to behave with people, and that's exactly how I'm going to behave with you. Whether or not you follow that, or you're being rude with me or not, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to act out exactly how the Prophet ﷺ has taught us how to act out. And maybe, once your neighbor sees that, he sees that, every time I'm rude to this guy or I tell him something, he's always replying in such a good manner. Why? What's up with this? And that's the best form of da'wah, doing it yourself. So taking my question back to you guys, that's what I wanted to ask you. Before I move the question to the brothers here and ask about how to establish an Islamic environment in a Muslim minority country, I want to extract a really quick question. I know one of the things they're going to say is establishing, things like the MSA or groups at the masjid. I want to know, do you think in a Muslim majority country that is a good way to establish an Islamic environment by having a group, or do you think it's better if you do it through an education system or a more nationwide thing? Because the country is majority Muslim, would creating an Islamic environment be better on a nationwide basis, meaning you have the television, everything influencing a good Islamic environment, the schooling system, everything around the country is influencing or creating an Islamic environment? Or do you think it should be done how, one of the ways it's done in the West, which is creating small groups where, you and your friends get together, have a good Islamic organization? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, in fact, people here in majority Muslim majority countries, they just know Islam as a religion. So they are born Muslims. But the culture itself, they don't have deep understanding of Islam. So yes, it's a very good idea to form groups, and it's what we do, especially in Ramadan. That we form some groups of brothers, and we go to wake people up to pray Fajr if they are asleep, or if they don't wake up to have the suhoor, and we. In the masjid, we form groups to recite Quran, and we encourage people to come to us, and we make some general breakfast, a banquet to people to come around. Yes, so forming groups, it's something very, very important. And in some communities, ignorance. They are illiterate. They don't write. They don't read. So. Yes, we have to make something like small groups instead of being something general. Because if you just want to make it general, you have to count on media. Firstly, the first place, and media, no, it's not something Islamic at all. Yes.
But this is media also.
No, media. This media, this media. Of course, but
just kidding,
it's not as strong as the other media, the secular media.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Yes, I can say also that depending on the two methods is effective too, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَى تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. So we can use every method or every way to spread knowledge and to have a good Muslim society. It's okay.
That's a very good point there. Using small groups and on top of that a nationwide media coverage. Okay, if I can take the question over to this side, how do you think you guys can create an Islamic environment in the West or in a Muslim minority country?
As all the brothers said, parenthood is very crucial in the beginnings of a childhood of a Muslim. So starting from being the parents themselves as a role model, how children, when their learning process is basically through like imitation. So they imitate what the parents do here and there. And I remember when I was a little kid, I went to some other friends' houses and whatnot. They had taped up some posters like around the house, like for example, like du'as, supplications, like on the doors for bathrooms, entering the bathroom and entering the house, even through the car and everything as well. So it became like a whole daily process, so like you're remembering Allah, and then you, through like that imitation, repetition, and whatnot, you get to that point where you actually
becomes a habit.
Yeah, it becomes a habit, and you actually find the hikmah behind, the wisdom behind it as to why we're doing this every single day, every single moment. Why is there a du'a and this and there, and this for the prayer, for the remembrance of Allah, and so parenthood is a base, for you. And also, I would say the masjid as well. Masjids.
Masjids are like the key point.
Yeah, the key point. Yeah.
Gathering points.
Masjids are basically, as what we all said, are where we find all the common-minded Muslims. Where everyone has the common struggles. And once we come together, we feel like have that comfort, together here and there, and in groups as well, and schools and organizations as well. They keep that bond together, that silat rah, that ties of kinship, as what the brother said. So those all together really, conjoin the basis of that Islamic environment everywhere you go, inshallah.
All right, Brother Jas, can I get your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the elders in the London community, it was Hafiz Ijaz, Hafizahullah, he said that, this is very simple, he said, live Islam, give Islam. It's very simple, live Islam, and give Islam. Yeah. So simple, but when you actually put it into practice, you see the results and the fruits from it. And obviously growing in or being in a non-Muslim country, one of the best ways in which we build foundations is, like our brother mentioned, that you give da'wah, you tell people about Islam, not just obviously act on what you're saying as well, because this is a problem we have. We talk a good game but no one sees it. But when people actually see Islam, it's actually quite eye-opening. Just simple things like my dad's he was a bus driver, and he came asking me questions about wudu because he saw Muslims
sticking their feet in the sink.
Yeah, sticking their exactly. Sticking their feet in the sink and praying. And he would ask me, okay, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? He said, but if Muslims wasn't doing that, that
wouldn't bring up the question.
The question would never have arisen. So one thing we also had in London was something called Meet Your Muslim Neighbour. Okay, this was basically an initiative by a lot of masajid in London. They have like an open day, and they invite all of the non-Muslims in. So they have like
kind of like an open house.
Open day, yeah. So all of the Muslims, the non-Muslims of the local area would go inside. They have like some tea and that, and they just ask questions about Islam. Okay,
ask whatever you want. We have similar things like why Islam.
Da'wah, our team is basically.
Yeah. Most of you have it in America.
I think our da'wah game is better than yours.
I don't know about that. But But it's important, you know. It's important that we do these things because it allows the community at large, not just Muslims, non-Muslims as well, to actually understand, okay, this is why Muslims do this. This is why Muslims park in my driveway on a Friday because they're trying to go to the Friday prayers. And if you have this open door policy, anyone can come and understand and learn about Islam, then inshallah people will become Muslims. And people, or if they don't become Muslims, they at least become sympathetic towards the Muslims.
They'll be aware of what it is.
Yeah,
because usually when people are not aware, they fear what they don't know.
They don't know. So, and if you look at what a Muslim society is based on, things such as like, you know, respect, you know, non-violence, you know, getting rid of all of the harms, you know, commanding good, forbidding evil, it's something that every single person on this earth that is, you know, has a good heart wants in the. No one wants to live in a violent area. No one wants to live in an area where there's drugs and all these kind of things. So if Muslims are promoting these values, you know, it's good for dawah, but then at the same time, it's also re-emphasized. You know, we're actually creating an environment that we can feel comfortable in. If we're actually positive members of society, you know. So this is key. Giving dawah, because you know, giving dawah, it just reinforces yourself at the end of the day. If you're explaining to someone, you know, this is why I believe Allah exists. This is what the Prophet ﷺ done to prove he's a prophet. Sometimes as you're speaking to people, it's like reinforcing yourself at the same time. You know, so like for me, you know, the key is just dawah, you know, and you know, live Islam, give Islam. Inshallah, it's good for our iman as well.
All right, unfortunately that's the end of the episode, so I want to thank you guys for giving me a lovely conversation here and giving our viewers a good time. Once again, thank you guys for coming in tonight and sharing your time with us. And I want to thank you, dear viewers, for tuning into another episode of Let's Talk. And also, I want to thank those who gave us phone calls, and I want to encourage others that during our episodes, they can always call us. This is their episode. You know, it's one big conversation. Pick up the phone and join us. Other than that, don't forget to like us on Facebook. And until next time, may God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How perfect my Allah is, and I praise Him. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi. Subhanallah. How perfect you are. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi. Subhanallah. How perfect you are. Allah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah, Allah, I'm calling your name. Allah, I call you, I need you. Allahu Akbar. Allah, your mercy is great.